All right. So I'm going to guess that was 30 seconds. Math is not my strong suit. I am a branding expert. My name is Carly Cunningham. Welcome to the session. I am super excited to be here today to hear from four leading businesses in BC. And I'm looking to forward to hearing about their stories, the challenges they've faced along the way, and just some interesting tips that they can offer us in today's landscape for the landscape challenges that shall not be mentioned, because I know we're all pretty sick of hearing the words. And we're going to learn about what steps they took to grow their businesses. Thank you and welcome to my panelists today. Lee Joseph, founder of Squalin. Am I saying that right? Correct me if I'm
Squalwin.
Squalwin, thank you, awesome. Squalwin Botanicals, Michaela Go, co-founder of Vessi Footwear, Samarth Maud, CEO of Freshworks Studio, and Andrea Scott, director of retail and creative strategy at Spud.ca. And this is such a fantastic mixture of entrepreneurs. I can't wait to hear from you all. Before we begin, I'd like to gratefully acknowledge that we are gathered here on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples. We wish to respectfully acknowledge the homelands of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations. As a business owner myself, I know the difficulties and challenges of starting a business, let alone growing a business, and dealing with the issues of scale. Today, we're going to discuss the individual experiences of growth and entering new markets, and even your first hire. So thank you all for joining us, and get ready to learn a few tips and strategies for those who have gone down this path already. We'll have time at the end for questions, so send us your questions in the Q&A box, and I will roll through those when we get to that time. So for those in the crowd here who have not yet been introduced to you or your businesses, would you all mind introducing yourselves and tell us a little bit about your company? And I was hoping we could start with Lee. Can you tell us your story about Squalin?
Sure. Hasqual, Lee Joseph Queensna, Tanachantala, Squamish Romeo, Onwanoxton, Squallowin, Eok Tensequatals. My name is Lee Joseph. My ancestral name is Stiawit, and I come from the Squamish First Nation. I'm happy to be here today. My heart is full. I started Squalwin 3 years ago under a different business name. Actually, it originated as the Wild Botanicals. And it started as a creative outlet for my research. I'm a doctoral candidate and researcher in the field of ethnobotany, which explores the interconnections between people and plants. And I realized that as an Indigenous woman and as a researcher, what I really wanted to be doing was spending more time on the land and re-engaging and reconnecting with the landscape through plants. And so I started creating formulations for my kids and then for elders and community members in the communities I was researching and working with. And then it really grew from there. And I rebranded just over 1 year ago under the name Squalwin, which is a Squamish word that doesn't translate directly to English, but most closely can be understood as spiritual heart or essence of being. And that's kind of where my passion behind this plant-based skincare business is. I didn't mention what I actually do, but it's a plant-based skincare and wellness brand. And yeah, I'm just so happy to be here and in such great company today.
Thank you, Lee. And I love that you wove your story into that. That's as a branding expert, that grabbed me right away. Michaela, how about you and Vessi? Waterproof trainers. I think we could all use a pair of those today, hey?
Yeah, honestly, the idea came because myself and my co-founders, we all grew up in Vancouver. And you guys know, like growing up in BC, it rains a lot. And we're put in a situation where you have to either give up something looking stylish and cute or getting wet socks. Sorry, my AirPods dropped. There you go. And so we searched in the market and there was nothing available. It was either you're going to wear your runners out and end up with wet socks, or you have to wear clunky rubber rain boots. And so we came up with the idea. We launched it on Kickstarter late 2017, and that's kind of how the Vessi brand began.
Excellent. I love how we're already getting into how did we start our businesses? Everybody's going to have a different story here. So thank you for that. Samarth, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey with Freshworks?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Moore. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Freshworks Studio. We are based in Victoria. We have around 75 employees. We work with the province of British Columbia as well as other enterprises and startups to develop mobile applications as well as digital solutions. So we are a full-on software services development firm. We also work with Fortune 500 companies to again provide them with software solutions. My journey started around 6 years ago. I immigrated to Canada in 2013. I was pursuing my MBA at University of Victoria. I'm here excited, and hopefully some of you start your own business journey, and hopefully there's something to learn for all of you here.
Perfect. Lastly, but not least, Andrea, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Spud and how did it all start?
Sure. So my name is Andrea Scott, like Andrea, but with an R. I like to preface that because I get asked all the time if it's a spelling mistake, but no, in fact, it's my name. I am the director of marketing for the Spud.ca brand, as well as our partner brands, Blush Lane Organic Market and Be Fresh. I oversee the communications and messaging and our offers for our customers. Spud started as a CSA program, so it was literally bringing just fresh vegetables to your door, still like with dirt on them right from the farms. And from there, they recognized there's an opportunity to start to grow that out into a grocery e-commerce business that really evolved over the last 20 years that since Spud has started. I've been with the company for 8 years. So I've seen such a huge growth because if you look back to 2012, e-commerce and buying groceries was very uncommon. So we were considered somewhat out of the norm. And now buying groceries online has become a common occurrence.
I would suggest positively disruptive would be a good word for that. Can you clarify what CSA means?
Sorry, that's a community supported agriculture. So
perfect.
If Spud.ca, the heart of who we are, we believe in local and sustainability. Those are the two big pieces of who we are, and organic we care very deeply about as well. And so with the community supported agriculture program, it connects people to farmers and farms in a way that potentially they can't get to. So if you don't live close to a rural farming area, we would bring that to you. And as we evolve, we've now been able to bring over 400 different farmers, vendors on board that are local, with that being the number one goal of who Spud is support.
Brilliant, thank you. And just looking at your journey and how early you got into the e-commerce game, like you said, buying groceries online, what? I'm going to seed some of our participants here and say, throw some questions in the Q&A if you're, working through that. Oh my gosh, everything needs to go online journey right now. I'm sure Andrea has some really good answers for that. So great introductions. Thank you all. I love the uniquenesses of each of your stories. And what I wanted to dig into now is business growth. And I'm going to go back to Lee and say, when you started out, did you have particular goals in mind?
When I started out, I really liked making things and I liked harvesting, and I really loved the formulation part of it. I've gone through a very steep learning curve in terms of what it means to start and run and grow a small business, and I'm loving it, but I can safely say that I hadn't really thought much beyond my very first kind of holiday craft market, which is where it started. Quickly after that, I recognized that there was a lot of other aspects. So I would say that pretty much right from the get-go, I would say that my bigger kind of vision that is still true, that guides the work that I do, is to contribute to knowledge renewal in the aspects or in the area of Indigenous relationships with plants and with place, and also to contribute to Indigenous representation. And that's something that I've thought of in sort of my academic sphere, but it certainly translates completely to the entrepreneurial path that I'm on as well.
Excellent. And so now that you've been in the business and you've thrown open the closet with all the hats, what everything is. You're like, oh, wait, hold on a minute. I'm just not making things anymore, right? Tell us about your plans in the next couple of years. How are you looking to grow?
Yeah, so we've talked about like being on an e-commerce platform. So I have an online shop through Shopify, and that sort of I've been in that online space from the beginning, being a direct to consumer product based business. That's been really important. So that is where I've kind of focused a lot of my energy, is through working with my newsletter and my social media to develop the brand story, and that also has been something that I continue to learn from, and that evolves. I'm really planning in the next year or two to build out my my wholesale program, and again, I'm learning a lot in terms of what what I can offer for wholesale, given that I'm wild harvesting and growing some of my key ingredients. So that's certainly a limiting factor in terms of what it is that I can offer more broadly. So I'm really looking at kind of how to develop out a wholesale program at the same time as really focusing a lot more on my direct to consumer online platform. And then I also want to sort of formalize my my give back, how it is that I enact this contribution to Indigenous communities and knowledge in BC and beyond as well.
Brilliant. That's such a holistic view. I really like that. So thank you for touching on those aspects that are so important. Michaela, how do you define growth at Vessi?
Big question. Growth in our team really means like hitting our number one goal, and that's being top of mind for whatever category we're going after. Right? We want Vessi to be that one brand you think of when it rains outside. Right? When you think about just like enjoying going on a hike, traveling, being carefree, we want you to think about Vessi. And so like everything that we're doing now in terms of growth, in terms of product we produce, kind of supports that one goal, is how do we become top of mind for our current customers and our new customers.
Excellent. Did you start off with a 5-year plan, or have you seen or chosen organic growth?
So we launched Vessi on Kickstarter back in 2017. There's a lot of bumps on the road. So I would say, initially going into it, there was no 5-year plan. We kind of tackled it. Okay, so we launched a shoe. It's raining. What's going to happen during the summertime, right? When it's not raining. And so when we first ran into like our first summer, that's where we learned a lot about our customers, and that's kind of how we positioned ourselves. You can wear this when you're traveling. You can wear this all year round. You can wear this when you're walking your dog outside or you're even hiking. So I would say now we do have a 5-year plan, but initially that first year was a lot of trial and error, and that's really led us to where we are now.
That's fantastic. And one thing I really want to pull out for our audience, which is work that I do with my clients, is gaining that deep understanding of your ideal audience. When you're starting out, you have an understanding that's the seed of who they are. And like you said, you've dug deep into building the layers of what is the story they tell themselves about our product. What are the uses for our product beyond what we ever imagined? And it's so much easier to access that information and ask them than guess, right? In that, because footwear is so hyper competitive, how do you stand out? I mean, okay, yes, you're a waterproof shoe, but go beyond that for me. In the summer months, how do you stand out?
So I think we're lucky in a sense, the unique factor of the shoe is very cool. There's a viral effect to it. There's a visual effect to it. It's so funny because when we first started shipping out our first shipment of shoes, our social there was so much UGC, like user generated content, that would flow in, because first things that people would do is take the shoe and run it underwater. It's just so bizarre, but it works. And so we're lucky in a sense that the product is visual, and our customers are pretty much doing part of the advertising for us. But footwear is definitely very, very competitive. Like prior to I won't even get into like the logistical not nightmare, but a lot of logistical things behind selling things with many sizes. But it's about the community that we're trying to build right now, and that's what really is going to make us stand out against all these other brands. If Nike wanted to come in and create a waterproof shoe, they could if they wanted to, but it's how we've kind of built our brand and our community around the people that helped us get to where we are now is pretty much, I think, what our competitive standpoint would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And community, and I'm just going to get a nod from the rest of the panelists. In my world, brand, marketing, community all go hand in hand now in this digital world. It's so important to consider community. Who is our community? How do we build community? How do we support community? Lee already told us that's part of their vision and their growth plan. So well done. All right, Samarth, over to you. Freshworks. On my page, it says 69 employees, but I'm guessing between the time I got this update 2 days ago and today, you've added a few more because you said 75. So, and you're based in multiple locations. What does that growth look like inside the company? Talk to us about the excitement. Talk to us about the stressors.
Yeah. So first of all, great story, Lee and Michaela. I'm feeling inspired by just listening to your story and the growth that you have seen. Yeah, for us, we have grown to around 75 employees in the last 4 years. I started Freshworks in 2016, and I can totally talk about the failures and the lessons that we learned while starting Freshworks and how all those lessons came in handy. But in the last 4 years, we have grown from 2 employees. Now we have around 75 employees, and we are in services business, so we develop software solutions for our clients. And the growth has nothing but been a roller coaster adventure, as you can imagine. It started off as, we can do everything to sort of specializing in a niche and also being very selective about the people that we hire. It's very important for anyone starting new or an entrepreneur to be able to delegate responsibilities. When we were around 2 or 3 employees, it was very difficult to let go of things. But when we hired our first major employee, a project manager, we realized how much that person took away from our plate, so we can focus on the business as opposed to in the business. And that was sort of the aha moment for us, where we realized the importance of delegation. It's not just a buzzword, it's real, it's effective, it's something that business people should embrace. But then after that, we never looked back. Having said that, we sometimes hired in a rush and we suffered because of that. And then we determined our values and guiding principles within our organization, which then becomes sort of the parameter through which we hire anyone. We have also then understood and realized that it's one thing to have a growth in the company, and it's quite another to have growth of the people in the company. Because when someone joins you, they're joining you for the mission and vision of the company, but also they're joining so that they can also progress in their career. So somewhere down the road, we realized we did not have career plans, we did not have promotions plan, or we did not have proper health policies and whatnot. So in 2018, we sat down. We realized that okay, we have the values, we have vision, we have mission, but we need to have a career path for everyone. So then we started that process. We hired an HR team. Now we have a fully functioning HR team. We have a very well defined career process, career progression plan. We have a well defined value system through which we make hiring or firing decisions. So I think to answer your question in succinct, it's been a roller coaster journey of learning and then having a lot of fun. Having experienced that crazy growth is definitely comes with its own challenges, but also comes with a good amount of learning and fun.
Great. One thing that I want to really pull out for the participants here is one thing that you said, and is, we have our values, our guiding principles, and we use those to hire. And we use those to select the people that are a right fit for our company. And when I work with clients down at Small Business BC in the Ask the Expert series, when we work with our own clients, I'm always trying to teach them, especially young business owners, is take those off the page. It's not just something you write down and get clear on and stick on the wall or throw in the business manual or the ops guide. take it off the page and use it. And I can see that you guys have really done that in your business, is you're living your brand, and it sounds like the whole team is on board and living it consistently. So how are you going to keep the momentum going?
I think a good thumb of rule for any business, be it product or services, is providing great service one way or the other. If you have a product, it has to be a great product. If you're a service, your clients should just rave about your service. So I think we sort of try and follow the rule, which is, make sure that what you're delivering has the highest quality while managing your employees, while having a good career plan for them. So both of them go hand in hand. You can't really emphasize one over the other. You just have to take care of both of them. So I think with that and hiring the right people, hiring the right level of leadership, as well as having good middle management layer, and focusing on good. So I'm giving you a business 101, 101 a lot of things to do. But yeah, I think as a business owner, I mean, especially for the audience, if I were to cater the message to the audience, if you're starting out, focus on doing the product or your service really well. In the early days, no amount of money will get you clients. It will be word of mouth that will give you new clients, or will uh, spread your business, or will get you new clients. So we're going to continue focusing on that while also doing so many other things.
Love that. So leverage word of mouth, collect testimonials, build case studies, get all that free marketing in place, and push it out to the world.
100%.
One more question for you.
Yes.
You and Rohit moved to Canada. How has the experience as an immigrant shaped your approach to business in Canada? And you're now in the US, so in North America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So when we came here as job seekers. We were both engineers, and we sort of moved and we went from job seekers to job providers, and we have now created around 100 jobs so far. When we came here, we were, I guess, surprised almost by the warmth and the community aspect of BC in general, and how people were eager to help and eager to provide you any direction that you need. So one thing that we realized right away is, if you're here for a job, or you are here to start a business, or in general, if you want to be successful in this community, uh, you have to network. You have to just go outside, go out of your comfort zone, and meet with people, interesting people, and just be open and vulnerable about yourself and be authentic. And that just goes a long, long way with people. Successful people have been there, done that. They have seen it all. And if you come across as someone of a 50 personality, or not authentic, they will see you from far away. So when we came here as immigrants looking for jobs, we started networking and realized we have a case for actually starting a business. And we then started our business in 2014 while we were in our MBA, pursuing our MBA class at University of Victoria. And while we were doing our MBA, we got a chance to interact with a lot of people. Our first product failed, and that was in 2014. So I know one of the question in Q&A is about failure. So our first product failed in 2014. We sort of, as an entrepreneur, if your first product fail, it's like it's the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to go through if their product fail, if their plans fail. But just know that I have not seen, 99.9% of the startups fail. And then I think for the successful entrepreneurs, their first idea more or less have often failed. But what they have done is they have not given up. They have used that new knowledge and applied that to their new product offering or whatever they have done in their life. And with that new knowledge, they have been able to be successful. So our first product failed in 2014. Our second product failed in 2015. In 2016, we came up with Freshworks Studio, and in the last 4 years, we have grown from 3 employees to 75 employees. So I'm a living example of how you can learn from failures and use that to be successful.
And I want to, one thing really just, it was almost a mic drop moment. And I hope that there's someone who works on, positive campaigns for immigration to Canada. You said, we came as job seekers. We're now job providers. That is such a powerful transition in your journey. Congratulations. I love
Thank,
that. Yeah.
thank you.
Over to Andrea. I would love to hear more about Spud and your journey from CSA to products to now locations. You know, how did you choose what to do first? Obviously CSA, but then evolving, there were probably many choices, right?
Yeah, I think it was a natural evolution by sticking with the values. It was always, Spud, we now say be part of the solution as our tagline because we feel like everybody has responsibility to join in on making those decisions with our dollars. But before we worked down that, we would always say local and organic groceries delivered. So we've evolved. That would be, I guess, that would be our biggest sort of evolution. Is we started off saying, well, first we're going to do support farms with that community support agriculture. Now we're going to move into groceries, and we're going to deliver groceries to you. And, it started off obviously, well, maybe not obviously. You start off simple. Don't go crazy. It was like the product offerings were what would make sense. And then there's a lot of learning because the way the model works is we work in a just-in-time model. So we would have farmers literally pick those raspberries that morning and be dropping them off for delivery, or the bread is being baked for your order that day. So there's a lot of work as you onboarded products to determine, what are the right products. We have something called a banned ingredient list. So we wanted to live by our values as we grew. So that meant we couldn't say yes to everybody. We wouldn't say yes to everything. It had to fit. We had to make sure it was for our customers. So if we're going to promise our customers something, that we're going to provide that, and that's what we're going to deliver on. So we grew by using our customers as our guiding light, to be honest. And I think that's what we've done this whole time as we went from CSA into groceries. A lot of that came from our customers and what did they want? What did they like? What did they need? And then building out from there instead of us just saying, here's what we have, really focusing. And the more time we spent with our customers, talking with them and understanding them, the more we're able to really hone in on what do they want. And that's still, as we now are at, over 10,000 items or even more in some of our locations, it all is guided by the principle of our customers and our values of sticking with in local. So that's sort of our progression is really, I think, if I said that to any small business, make your decisions based with your customers in mind. What is it that they're looking for? Not just what do you think is a good idea. Really go to the source. They will tell you. Customers want to tell you. And then as far as you'd asked, locations, we have these, what we call our 5 pillars that we use for our sustainability model. And responsible transport is one of them, meaning we use our trucks to deliver as many grocery orders as we can to keep more cars off the road. So as we do that, we try to make sure that we really saturate an area before we move on to the next area. So that would help guide as we would grow out and further where we go based on how we're doing in one market. And then, so the panelists talked about, word of mouth and user generated content, and that falls a lot into play as well. If customers are really enjoying the experience, they tell their friends, they want to post about it. And then you see the growth within those areas that are strong. And then taking some chances too, looking at areas where potentially they don't have access to maybe as many products as other areas have, like say downtown Vancouver. There's a lot of opportunity to get food in many places, but there may not be as much opportunity, say in Hope, to get as many maybe local products and maybe some of those kind of key differentiating products. So looking to areas where we could then help bring some of that locality into that location.
Fantastic. 2 things I pulled from that. Don't try to be all things to all people.
Yeah.
Find your group, find your community, find your tribe, whatever word is appropriate for you to use within your community, and work from that base. And yeah, your brand ambassadors, your raving fans, they want to help you succeed. They want to see companies like all of our panelists grow. And the reason I can see that is because you're all very strong in your values. You're all very strong in your purpose. You all understand how to serve the people that love you. And that's fantastic. And B Corp. For those who may not know, can you quickly tell us what B Corp is and how important that, along with your values, have been to growing your business?
Yeah, for sure. So, B Corp is a certification process that is quite lengthy, for companies to go through, and it's a way for customers to start making decisions with their dollars based on choosing companies that truly. So we all can say, "Oh, we do this," or "This is what we believe in," but B Corp really holds you to the fire. So, are you responsible with your employees? Are you responsible with your packaging? Are you responsible in all areas of your business? They look at a 360-degree view of how you operate your business, and if you're granted B Corp status, that's just it's a wonderful way to help customers learn about what that means, and then when they want to spend their dollars, you're attaching your dollars to companies that really are putting people and the planet before profit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a huge part of this. It fits within our sustainability model. It is a big part of who we are with our values. Every decision we make as we grow, we've grown a lot, especially with COVID, but even previous to COVID, we've grown a lot in the last 20 years. But one thing that's never changed is conversation from the CEO all the way through the company is the sustainability factor. That is, it is at the heart of everything. It's our people and sustainability. So it is people and the planet always before.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're going to invest that amount of time, energy, resources in gaining a B Corp certification, which I know is not easy, it's a clear differentiator. It's really a company putting their money where their mouth is. If you're going to say it, how are you going to step up and into that and live it? Yeah, fantastic. So we've got a bunch of entrepreneurs with me who have done a fantastic job of growing their company. I'm sure everyone listening in would agree. That doesn't come without challenges. So here we go. I'm going to reverse or mix up the order, and I'm going to start with Samarth. And I know you already touched on some challenges, but talk to me about your biggest challenge in growing your business. And I'm going to even say, talk to us about possibly the most entertaining story that goes with that challenge of growing your business.
Absolutely. So I think at different stages of a company, you encounter different challenges. So say if we distribute journey of a company in 3 parts. Part 1 is starting out. So I think starting out presents its own challenges. You have to get over the inertia of the way you were doing certain things and the way you are imagining running a business. And then secondly, setting the right expectations when starting a business. Whenever someone starts a business, no one thinks that it will not be successful, or no one really thinks it will not grow as much as they want it to grow. So I think starting a business, it's always important to have start with the right expectations and making sure you have done enough research in the market, and also just know that intrinsically running a business and starting a business is difficult, and the stats are against us, and there just has to be a grind that you have to go through. So that was number one challenge when we started. We started with this high expectation. I had a technical background and I was pursuing my MBA, and I thought to myself that I will be successful in starting a business and running a business. But that wasn't the case because our first startup or the first product idea failed. So the number one challenge is to just understand that starting a business and running a business is difficult, and you will encounter different problems that you would not have imagined, and having the right expectations. Challenge number two is, say if you have started and you're on a journey, and if your business requires some funding or want to raise some money, that will always be challenging. It's never an easy task to raise money unless your business is making money right off the bat, or if your products are selling. Then investors will come running to you, and then you will have a different problem to deal with. But more often than not, you will have sort of funding as an issue, as well as just running the business and things going wrong and things not going according to the plan. And then the third challenge is, say if you have overcome all these challenges and you're functioning and running an organization, the challenges will take different forms. Some days your clients will not be happy despite the work that you have done. Some days your employees will not be happy with you because they are expecting some other things. And then those challenges will always teach you a lesson, or teach you how to set the right expectations, or how to have proper communication channels. So And on top of it, the other challenge or the fun challenge that we had as immigrants to Canada was just our understanding of the context and understanding of how things work here. Coming from India and having just a very different perspective of business and people, and coming here and just learning a few nuances. So nuances around, just something as simple as communication, something as simple as an accent, and just understanding what different things mean in different contexts. And then while you're working with your business partner, or if you have a business partner, just making sure that you are talking to each other constantly. A fun challenge that I encountered was I used to program the app that I used to build, and then my business partner used to design the app. And I always used to ask him for, a yellow color button or something that matches the theme of the app, and he would always give me like a red color button. And then after going back and forth a number of times, we realized he is colorblind. And then that's just a fun thing that he never knew that he was colorblind. Then it was just a fun conversation. So these are challenges that, if you don't have resources, you have to do the best you can with what you have. And when you do that, you will encounter different challenges. um, I think the important thing to note is everyone goes through challenges, and it's how you look at them, it's how you solve them, sort of differentiates you from a successful business versus not so successful business.
Fantastic. So all in, what I heard was get good at juggling balls and know when to hand them off.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to jump to Michaela because I saw you laughing as he was talking about the yellow and red. And did you, okay, so my question is, before you get into your challenge, is did you know where he was going with the color blindness, or were you laughing because of, partners go, hey, can you do this? And that shows up and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. So like, I guess so I did not know that the story was heading that direction, but I think, yeah, like as what you said, like working with like two other co-founders, it has its positives and negatives, right? I think like Samar touched on so many important points. In every business, there's like there's stages of difficulties that you kind of like, you passed level 1, now it's part for level 2, and now you're moving on to the next levels. So right off the bat, like, setting expectations and your goals and making that public to everyone, like within your founding team, and as you grow with your entire team, is so important. Because like what we experienced, like initially when we were in level 1, we said yes to almost everything. We're like, oh my God, we're starting off this business, these people are interested in what we're doing. Yes, because this can make our business grow onto like the next stage. But what we lost sight of is this, yes, contributing to our overall goal? And when we started saying no, and that's where we actually saw the growth. Because now we're being selective with our yes, we're being selective with what we're doing, and like where we're headed to is a clearer path, right? And then I guess that now leads us to level 2, hiring more people. So now when we said yes, we know where we're going. Now let's bring in the right people to do it. But like, like I think with all of us here, like with ecom and the growth, especially during COVID, we've experienced like a big growth in the past year. And that's when we started off with like 3 people in 2018, and now we're at 25 people. And so it was a very big growth. But none of us, Tony, Andy, and myself, none of us have actually gone through this entire experience or process before. So it's also a learning experience on all our side, right? And I think our next biggest challenge was that when we bring people on, is the expectation set? Is our goal set? Do they understand that this is what we expect our company to be 5 years from now? And yeah, like I think once you're aligned, everything runs like a lot smoother. And yeah, it's not easy to have like 3 co-founders, but at the same time, it's good because we all take ownerships at different parts of the business, which is,
that's great. It sounds like you have all, navigated the challenges to become this tight-knit team. And one thing that I heard, hopefully, I mean,
yeah.
everything I've learned in working with the businesses that I've worked with and growing my own businesses, it's an organic process. And even if you've been there before, you think you're going to turn the corner at X point, and it's 5 more kilometers down the path, right? One thing that I wanted to dig into that I heard you say, and it has a term which I just became aware of, and it's called founder syndrome, and it's taking that vision and taking those goals and all the strategy of how you're going to do this. What's the vision of the company? And it's the importance of how to get rid of founder syndrome, which is effectively offloading that responsibility and preventing everyone in your team always having to come back to you and say, where are we going? What are we doing? How are we doing this? Is offloading that. The importance of that is not just being clear on it, it's getting it documented concisely so that everybody can live it. They can take it off the page themselves and live it. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I heard you say, which the yeses and nos, a very wise yogi once said to me, what you say yes to, you say no to something else. What you say no to, you say yes to something else. And that was a mind blown moment for me. So hopefully some of you in the audience can take that away, because it's a really great lesson. Andrea, biggest challenge?
So many.
Best one, most entertaining one, audience worthy?
I think Michaela really it hit it on the stages of growth is for, I think, a really big challenge as we continually grew. We had a place in our main Vancouver office where we made the leap to jump into a large, like 38,000 square foot facility. Wow. And change our technology on how we would pack groceries. And that was a massive challenge because I think, I guess it's a challenge. And also that my conversation to any small businesses would be as you're growing, hopefully everybody gets to hit this spot where the growth is now you're at your wall, you're at your ceiling of as far as you could go. Now you need to take that leap of faith and just go all the way in. And that was a huge challenge. It was very exciting for the company, but it was also a huge challenge to learn new technology and how to do that throughout the whole company. I'd say that was a really big challenge. And then I can't help but bring up the elephant in the room of COVID and being an e-commerce grocery company as an essential service being groceries. That was an insane challenge. We grew at 100%, and that is just outrageous. So the challenges that came with not having enough labor, not having enough packaging, not having enough product, not having enough delivery vans, like I could go on and on. Those were some pretty significant challenges that we all as a team in every department had to work together and find solutions on how to get to where we are today, where we could serve all of our customers.
Yeah. And to put that into context for some of the newer business owners and entrepreneurs that are starting out in the audience, 100% growth sounds amazing, but most companies exactly right. On the outside, most companies I know struggle with sometimes 15, 20% growth, 30% growth is a lot in 1 year. So yeah, just imagine taking your current customer base and just like pouring water on them and just going boom, and they duplicate. How do you even do that?
I mean, at the end of the day, no, we're definitely not complaining, but you have no place for a growth at that size. Nobody is ever prepared to grow like that. And I think from that, the piece that I would give to small businesses outside of, not so much about getting to that growth number is be inventive. So we didn't have enough delivery vans because we just didn't. So what did we do? We went and found companies that weren't working because they had stopped because of COVID, and we brought them on board. We went to different restaurants and we potted managers who already oversaw their team, so we could bring people in who could instantly work as a unit and come into the warehouse from a supervisor to a packing role. We just looked outside at what was around and figured out how could we help in our community model, but also serve our customers.
Yeah, you did it. I was going to pull on that. We went to our community, right? Yeah. And one really tiny word that got buried in there, the importance of processes, getting them out of your head, getting them documented. If I were to, fall sick tomorrow, who in the business can run with it for me so that my business is still sustainable? That's a huge challenge for small businesses. Yeah. All right, Lee, over to you. I'm not going to put one. You can run with it if you want, but I can imagine convincing Mother Nature of a good harvest is a major challenge. But given that you wild harvest, I love that aspect of your business. But you pick your challenge. I just was that one was like, huh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that comes to mind that not necessarily has been sort of a singular challenge, but it's a process is because I am grounding my brand and my business very much in my identity and my culture. Approaching that in a way that is ethical, respectful, developing these own pillars for myself personally in terms of how I carry myself when I am harvesting and preparing to do that, and sharing that, whether it be through teaching or through this entrepreneurial platform. I think that that's an ongoing conversation that I'm, having with myself and developing. The wild harvesting aspect as well is something that is really, shifting and changing, and everything that the other panelists just spoke to. I'm just sort of writing down these notes and feeling like, I am in a stage of growth, and I'm also in a stage of handing off, tasks, which is very hard when you, as you just mentioned, when sort of everything is, going on in here, and how do you, communicate that within, for me, this framework of, respect, reciprocity, and resilience. So the resilience part is, recognizing that, my Indigenous ancestry and the teachings that I'm drawing on embody resilience. And that's something that I wish to use as a foundation, for my business and how I communicate, around my business and brand. As well as, this reciprocity. So if I am wild harvesting, how is it that I'm giving back? And so some ways we've been doing that is partnering with native plant nurseries to both supply some of those plant ingredients, as well as to plant out native plants onto the landscape. And that's a really important aspect of this. The way that I'm sort of shifting and learning, because I would love to make a new product every day. I get so inspired by the recipe development, the formulation. I'm realizing I can't do that. Capacity is a challenge at this stage. I have a team of, there's 3 of us. And so that has been already a huge help in terms of, sharing the load. But as we continue to grow, I think that in terms of the wild harvesting aspect, it's really going to shift more to partnerships with native plant nurseries and organic farms in terms of accessing those plant ingredients, offering a chance for learning and training in terms of like the Indigenous. My whole team is Indigenous that are working on the ground here. And so in terms of offering a chance to really renew that knowledge in a hands-on way, partnering with these local farms and plant nurseries is a great way to do that, as well as to not increase pressure on wild populations of plants. So these are all things that I'm considering. That being said, my formulations are not heavily reliant solely on these ingredients. I'm purchasing from sustainable suppliers for the plant-based oils and butters and clays. And some of these botanicals are also available through ethical supply chains already. So this is something that I'm looking at developing as I do scale my production, which is another, it's a challenge, or it's challenging looking at making the decisions for how I do that. But all in all, it's just sort of the, I think just being in a big stage of growth right now, it's the growing pains, feels like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest theme I'm hearing in your growth is respect, and ensuring that you're honoring tradition, you're honoring culture, you're honoring ceremony, and rolling that into the business as you grow, so that it can also grow.
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay, the word that shall not be mentioned. Do I even have to say it? Do we know where we're going? The land of unprecedented times calling for pivots. And I mean, I joke about it because we're all like, oh my gosh, so tired of hearing it. At the same time, I don't think we can't not mention it. Mm-hmm. What I'm most curious about is, what was the biggest impact of it on your business? And it's going to show up differently for each of you, from limited supplies and accessibility because of quarantines, because of our business grew 100% pretty much overnight. Talk to us about what had the biggest impact, and one piece of advice that you would give to deal with something like that shows up?
I would honestly say when I was thinking about that, and I would say be transparent. You need to be truthful and you need to be transparent to your customers, because we are in unprecedented times and we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know with numbers going up. We don't know where any of this is going. No one can predict it. Everyone's trying, but it's unknown, and that makes it scary. And I think the biggest takeaway I have had that our team has learned for our company is to be transparent and to be truthful. If you can be honest with your customers, from anything from maybe deliveries are going to take longer, maybe you need to implement a fee, maybe the product you promised that you were going to send, you can't send because there's a shipping problem, or there was, getting the supplies. There's so many reasons to why things aren't running perfectly and super smooth right now at times. And I think everybody's open to that and okay with it as long as you're honest. And I think that is my number one piece of advice to anybody right now, is to be honest and to be transparent about what is happening within your company.
I love that. And for me, I tie that to, often when I work with companies in developing their guiding principles or values, they'll say and they always come up our values are integrity, trust, authenticity, add in a couple more, honesty. Honesty, I don't believe sits in that triad, but that first triad is, I believe, are actually outputs. If you do what you say you're going to do, if you're truthful and follow through on that, if you provide honesty, then integrity, trust, and authenticity are simply outputs that people then go, yeah, they are those things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, who wants to touch on the next shall not be mentioned name of biggest challenge and advice?
I'll go. So I guess the word community has been said multiple times throughout today's conversation. And I think during this time, we really looked back into our community and asked, our community helped fund us, first of all, to be a brand through Kickstarter. And so community has been a really big pillar for Vessi from the very beginning. We took this time and really asked, the community, what can we do to help at this time? Our business we'll be fine, but what can we do to give back to the community that helped us start from the very beginning? And through this, our Vessi Community Fund actually evolved, and with the help of our current customers, we were able to pinpoint what matters to them, where should we give back, and that's actually helped us grow our business through this time. So we were able to donate 2,000 pairs towards healthcare workers. We were able to raise enough money with the help of the community to purchase 400,000 masks to donate across different organizations. And that also kickstarted our community fund program, where we give out micro grants to local heroes that want to make a change within their community. And this kind of all goes back to the branding aspect that we mentioned earlier, right? This community, this give back program, this thing that we're trying to build around Vessi ultimately helps us solidify the brand and how people envision Vessi as well.
Wow.
So it's great. It's great to know that people care, and it touches my heart, and I'm so humbled to be part of the process more than anything. So.
Yeah. I don't know about some of you else in the audience because I can't see you, but I completely welled up. It is so clear how much community matters to all of you, but particularly in that story of, moving through COVID. Lee, do you want to tell us about how it affected your business and what advice you have?
For sure, yeah. So I saw a huge spike in my online business, which was very conflicted, because during a time when all of us as individuals are feeling very overwhelmed with the uncertainties, and to have all of a sudden your day-to-day kind of busyness need to spike up to meet that, we talked about that in terms of growth, was certainly, there were lots of pros and challenges to that, to that. I think what I turned to in that moment was, okay, how is it that I can offer, have an offering that is authentic to what it is that I'm building here, and that helps ground me in this moment. And so for me, that looked like developing a wellness kit that that consisted of a hand sanitizer, a restorative hand balm, and a hand soap, a gentle hand soap. And so this idea of creating an offering, again, was conflicted. I didn't want to be sort of, oh, how can I situate my product development to meet this? But it was more, how can I draw on my knowledge and my connection to plant medicines? And so this wellness kit is centered around usnea, or old man's beard lichen, mentz in Squamish, in the Squamish language. And this is a medicine that is highly antibacterial, grows all around us in West Coast forests. When I think about looking at the branches in the Squamish Valley here on a rainy, windy day and seeing that lichen, blowing in the breeze, that grounds me. And in terms of what it meant to offer something to community and to be able to supply this, specifically to Indigenous communities, but also to a broader audience, really helped me to feel grounded in that. And then I would say, at that time and ongoing, I actually more so now, supply chain issues are a consideration and a concern. It's also, I think, as it was mentioned before, when these challenges come up, it's a necessary point to also reconsider where the sort of pillars and foundations of this business might offer an opportunity to look at doing something differently, moving more in the direction of sustainability, and what does that mean in the context of Squalwyn. And so I would say just a lot of sort of growth and shifting happening, but ultimately really trying to find that place, that touchstone, and that place to come back to and land that feels like a place of some calm and groundedness.
Grounding was the repeat word, and I love that, because I have learned, for me, it is so challenging as a business owner to separate yourself. Someone else said identity. Well, actually, it was you, Lee. It talks about identity being rooted in your culture, in your traditions, and the land, and how do we? It's really so important to create that separation, to be able to take care of self and ground in self, and then step into the business and ground in business, and treat it as its own entity. So thank you for that. All right, Samarth, I'm going to suggest you have about 2 minutes to answer this question. I'm going to look at Ruby's avatar and say, Ruby, what time can we take this to for questions? Because I know we're running long, because we've had such great participation and answers and depth. Ruby, you want to answer me in the chat as to how long I can take this for? And Samarth, over to you. 2 minutes. Go.
No, I'm here. So we have 12 Q&A. We have so many questions from the attendees for you guys. So Sam, you're on the clock, and then we're gonna have a lot of questions for you guys from the attendees. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruby.
That means I have 1 minute. So
I'll give you 2.
I think one of the things that I mentioned earlier on is doing business is inherently risky. So, I mean, these are obviously times that we would like to forget very soon. And if not for COVID, there will be something else with respect to business, and we just have to accept it that something will come. But I do like the concept of community, and for our business, since we are enablers of technology, we develop mobile applications, web applications. We have built several applications for the government of British Columbia. For us, we were lucky, but at the same time, we had the support from the community, where they reached out to us when they were in a rush to develop some of the digital solutions that are now helping the citizens of British Columbia. As an example, we built the BC Enhanced Travel Screening app. So for international passengers coming to BC, they will have to fill out a form and self-quarantine for 14 days. So the reason I'm saying that is because it's important to have the right expectations going into a business. Inherently, it's just risky. And COVID is just one of the examples, and there will be something else that comes out later on. And it's so important to have the right people in the community that are your followers and that are rooting for you, because they will come in and they will help you out when the time is dire.
Yeah, Absolutely. Great advice. The one thing that I have found, I've been through I had my first partnership business go through the crash of, 2008, 9, 10, depending upon when it hit your business. And really, how do I say this? Stepping back and stepping out of the chaos and just looking at what are the opportunities. I'm not, and with, Lee, you said you never want to be opportunistic, but realistically, as business owners, as small business owners, I feel it's our job to pivot. Nobody else can move as quickly as we do. So in looking at the opportunities to serve our community, and when it's always grounded in your values and community, I don't think it's opportunistic. And thank you for the work that you've done to help keep us safe, Samarth. I think it's well to say that you've been doing it way behind the scenes. So thank you for that. As well to Andrea's team and helping us stay healthy, and Lee's team for helping us stay grounded and healthy, and Vessi for serving community when it wasn't necessarily about products. I mean, there's the double-edged sword of we're all in this together, but I think if we're in this as community, we can all help each other succeed and give back. So that's fantastic. All right. Into the Q&A. There are 12 questions. Ruby, how much time do we have?
We have 9 minutes, so
Okay.
we can just pick and choose a few if you're comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to go to the one that's right in front of me. It's from Paz, and hopefully I pronounced that correctly. If you choose one aspect of formal business education, accounting, marketing, finance, etc., to add to your initial skill set without taking on a full MBA, what would it be? If we want a lightning around this, I'll give you guys 30 seconds to think about it, and you're going to give me a one-word answer.
I would say technology. Just get used to technology. It's just gonna be, regardless of the business that you are in, it's in the next 5 years, next 10 years, that's something that's just coming. And it's better to get ahead of it rather than be the laggers and be behind it. And especially if you're starting a business, getting used to technology and technology tools, and perhaps something that you can do on your own. If you can stand up your own business website, that's just really important.
Great. Who's jumping in next? What would you choose?
I'd say accounting, just so that you can have an overall view of how your business is doing. Nothing crazy, but yeah.
Yep. Lee?
Yeah, I was going to say accounting because it's not my strong point. But also I can't remember the things that were listed there, but I think in terms of like branding and really understanding what it means to kind of build a brand and sort of how to start that is really, I found that very helpful and powerful in terms of kind of sharing story and giving a direction to starting out my business.
Great. Andrea?
If I understood the question, it was like a compliment to adding to what you already have.
Yeah. What formal business education would you take? So go take a course on the side of running your business.
Right, of where I'm at today. So with where I'm at today, I would agree with, I would say for me, it would be technology, just based on where I'm sitting right now. I think having the marketing background of that, working on the storytelling side, really understanding technology, because that is where we are going. Having a strong background in tech, I think would be great.
I'm just trying to think of which one it would be. I'm a big fan of Street Smarts, but I got to say, taking a basic accounting course or hiring one of your trusted advisors to teach you how to read your financials, that's solid gold. But again, my advice would be don't get too far trapped in any of those. Stay in your zone of genius. When you know what that is and you can learn to delegate everything else and know your dashboards, like know what they call them key performance indicators, know where your success measures are and have those reported back to you. I think for me, again, that's a numbers game. I think that's so, so important. Okay, Danielle's question is right in front of me. So how important is using Facebook as a part of your marketing strategy? I struggle with not knowing what to post, and I'm thinking about designing a schedule based on 3 times per week to try to decide on material for each of those days. Who wants to dive on that one? And I actually have a couple of recommendations for that as well.
I can take a start at it.
Awesome.
Facebook is not a huge part of our social platform. Well, no, I take that back. So when I think about social media, I look at it from organic and I look at it from paid. I think those are kind of two different avenues you want to look at your social from. Organically, I find Facebook to be quite passive. I don't find users, they don't engage as much organically. Paid, the Facebook has an incredibly robust platform to help you really target and find your customers. From question on posting, I would want to dive in and understand what your optimal times are. So when are people most engaged with your brand? And I would test it in some other areas of social media as well to see if you're not seeing that engagement in Facebook, try storytelling and Instagram. Look at some other ways that you could tell that story and see if you get a little more engagement. But definitely looking at your optimal posting, your times is really important. I think over posting, that gets done a lot. And really, before you post something, take a look at what you're posting and really make sure, are you offering value? Is it just a post because you said you were going to post, or are you providing that person or your followers with something that is really going to benefit them?
Perfect. Anybody else have anything to add to that? I'm going to guess Michaela or Lee, go for it.
I was just going to say, sort of building off of that. Again, I'm looking at sort of utilizing paid Facebook ads more, but I certainly focus mostly on Instagram and my newsletter. And I think something that's really helpful in that regard, because it can be sort of stressful if you're saying, okay, I'm going to post 3 times a week, and then, what am I going to post about? If that's an issue, creating content buckets, creating, sort of storylines and content that you draw on is very helpful for that, like especially on Instagram, but that translates to Facebook as well. And I think just, having sort of those, kind of branded elements that you're sharing on a regular basis really helps. And then of course there's software in terms of programming in those posts, which can also be very helpful. I just speak from, as somebody who would be sitting there thinking, oh, I'm supposed to post today. And then, sitting there for 45 minutes writing my post right there. And I've really drawn in help in that regard. And now I'm working with a team member really closely to develop that so that it does not feel as overwhelming like that, because it is a great way to, again, build that community.
Yeah. Michaela?
Yeah, we use Facebook a lot. So like what Andrea was saying, there's 2 sides to it. There's the paid side or the organic side. In terms of organic, like what you said, it doesn't really reach a lot of audiences now. But we do use Facebook a lot for paid. Right now, with the landscape of, the elections happening and whatnot, it is getting a bit more competitive. A lot of these big businesses with big dollars behind them are putting a lot of ad dollars into Facebook. That means you're going to be spending way more just to outbid them. So I think right now, like as Bessie and as our team, like we're looking at different creative ways so we can get to these customers. We can reach these customers that can complement our Facebook ads. Right? Because it is just going to get more and more expensive as we hit Christmas time, as we hit Thanksgiving. So, so I guess you got to push yourself to think outside of the box of how we can lower our cost per acquisition. What are the different ways outside of spending ad dollars on Facebook? In terms of posting, so what we do is, people love routine, right? So they come back because they expect it to be routine, or they expect something out of your brand. So if you wanted to do a motivational Monday kind of thing, or like whatever, Taco Tuesday, whatever it could be, like it could start off as, starting it off as build this routine and see what sticks, see what people engage with, and then you can kind of build something off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be the disruptor. I have been known to say, so I'll say it live to over 100 people. I hate social media. And here's the reason I hate it, is because I think it's become a big should. And my first question to my clients is always, are you prepared to develop content? And do you know where your audience hangs out? What's the watering hole? It might not be Facebook. It could be LinkedIn. It could be Instagram. It could be something completely different. I mean, there's always new platforms coming on live, and picking one and being good at it. One really good book that solved the content calendar nightmare for me. I say that and I still don't post regularly, but there's a great book called They Ask You Answer, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so good to help me solve that content nightmare of, oh, where do I even start with this? Ruby, I think we need to wrap. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Excellent. So thank you all for being a part of today. I know I have learned from you, and I have no doubt that our greater audience, who we cannot see, but I hope they're smiling along with me and nodding and saying, yeah, we took away a ton of points. I hope you all had your pens out and your notebooks with you, or your digital devices, and got some of the gold down from these business folks. And with that, I will call this session a wrap, and thank you all again for joining us today.